here was a little promo, since we're going to be coming out with our first episode of the Comedy Film Funnel.
Comedy Film Funnel.
That's
The
the
funnel.
name.
It's
That's the name we
right.
came up with somehow.
Yeah, that's the name we came up with.
Yes, we.
It was definitely both of us.
It was a compromise.
And of all the kitchen utensils, I think the funnel is definitely the funniest.
You barely use it, but when you do, you're excited to have an excuse to use a funnel. I mean, is it not fun to use a funnel?
It's only a few letters away from funny.
We're not going to acknowledge that.
We don't acknowledge. You're deliberately ignoring the fact that the word funnel has fun in it.
Yeah, I don't want to go there.
That's psychotic.
So why don't we talk about who we are so people know what they're getting into, like why they would listen to us. We've known each other for 10 years, at least.
It feels like more.
It just feels like a lot more. Joe and I met over Facebook, by the way. So God bless social media. Well, I've been a writer and editor and that kind of thing. And I had for a while written for Discover Magazine, and I've written for some other people, and lately doing nothing of any significance. But I have been podcasting. So I had a series on The Shining called The Shining 237, where I looked at every 2 minutes and 37 seconds of the movie The Shining. The beautiful Stanley Hotel in Estes Park, Colorado. We have Mr. Torrance, which was actually had a pretty good cult following. I had Dan Lloyd on, who had played Danny in the movie. I had Katharina Kubrick on, Stanley's daughter. And I talked to Garrett Brown, who is the famous Steadicam operator in that movie, who did so many incredible scenes.
You spoke to the tennis ball itself.
I did. That was one of the most important characters to me, was the tennis ball. And Joe was on quite a lot. When I completed the movie, I started another series on Rosemary's Baby, which I'm now still completing. Did that much slower, but that's been, just incredibly satisfying also. So we are looking at every 6 minutes and 66 seconds of that horror movie. I got a nice write-up in the New York Times at one point. I got AV Club wrote me up a couple times. But, not a huge following, but people seem to really like what I was doing. And Joe's been, again, a very frequent guest. People always loved it when Joe was on. So Joe, tell us about who you are.
I am a cartoonist for the New Yorker magazine and a frequent podcast guest, and I'm many things to all people, but nothing to some people.
So you've done cartoons for Mad Magazine, which everybody loves.
I have been in the long lamented, now defunct Mad Magazine.
Yeah. Airmail.
Occasionally I'm in Airmail, which is a great weekly newsletter put out by Graydon Carter. Formerly of Spy Magazine, of course. You can find my work in The American Bystander, which is a humor magazine. I say it's the last humor magazine standing. It's in the tradition of the National Lampoon, and even some of the people who wrote for the National Lampoon have continued writing and had writing published in the American Bystander. I've been in the long lamented, now defunct humor section of Esquire magazine. I've been in a lot of long lamented and now defunct things.
That's right. We're that years old. So I had done horror podcasting. I think I needed to get away from that as much as I love doing it. And I thought it would be really nice to do something a little more uplifting and, more enjoyable for the times we're in, which have been a little bit difficult. Of course, this is being recorded in early 2021. We're in the middle of a pandemic. If you're watching this in the future in your lame, what is it? What's that silver shiny material?
Silver lame.
Silver lame. You're probably
watching this sort of virtual reality version of this show where
a gasmatron in the corner of your bedroom. This is the year 2021, and we've been through a lot in the last couple of years, and last 4 years really. And so I thought it'd be a nice change. And I also think it's a little bit of a service to bring comedy to the forefront right now. I think people need it for their own mental health, as opposed to horror, which is very cathartic, but is I don't know if we need more people being sliced in half at the moment. Now, one of the reasons I wanted to work with Joe Dater, besides him being my favorite podcast guest on my former podcast, was what Joe would bring to this, which is an absolute lifelong love and adoration and encyclopedic knowledge of this kind of culture, comedy. You just love comedy going all the way back to the Marx Brothers and before. And you know this stuff. This is your wheelhouse.
Yeah, well, you mentioned the Marx Brothers. You know, I saw the Marx Brothers for the first time, probably 1974 it was, when a movie called Animal Crackers was released to the public. It hadn't been seen in something like 50, no, I'd say about 40 years it hadn't been seen. Since the 1930s, it hadn't been seen. And my dad, for some reason, I don't know why, decided to take me to that and changed my life. I walked out on bended knees, a new boy.
Yeah. Didn't you actually make a presentation in school voluntarily?
Yeah. I went to school the next day and volunteered to stand in front of the class and give an oral report about what I had seen the night before. And I drew pictures of all four of the Marx Brothers and spread those out. And I talked about what they did and who they were. The teacher was more than game to let me do it because she could see that this meant something to me.
How old were you about?
Probably would have been about eight or nine.
Isn't that amazing?
8 or 9 years old.
I love that. Yeah, I love it. It's very. And in general, we'll be doing stuff we like and stuff that's kind of classic. And but we're going to cover it in a way, you know, that what's going to be a little different is we're going to be covering in a way that has a lot to do with comedy history. For example, we're starting with Bedazzled.
You drive me wild, you drive me wild.
You fill me with inertia.
And, you know, Joe is just a Peter Cook absolute fanatic and knows this stuff from, you know, just decades of having a man crush on Peter Cook. Can I say that? Is that true? Or
it is absolutely true.
Yeah. Yes. So I kind of thought that.
They offered Dudley Moore, you know, sort of a show and said, well, you can choose whoever you want to be on it with you. And so he said, well, I want to bring Peter. So it became, the show was sort of supposed to be called not only Dudley Moore, but also Peter Cook. But then it became called Not Only, But Also. And if you watch it now, it's pretty clear it's not only Peter Cook, but also Dudley Moore. It really kind of flips from what the original sort of, you know, brief was.
Again,
but it was supposed to be the Dudley Moore show, really.
I think you're a little biased with your Peter Cook love.
Yeah, I am.
And then, you know, we'll be doing Cabin Boy. I mean, we were both Letterman. We were both there when Letterman first got on the air and just we're both, I mean, we didn't know each other. I was in New Jersey and he was in the Bronx, just dying over Chris Elliott and how amazing, and just Letterman himself. And, you know, we have a lot to say about all of that.
I realize that you are most likely the product of lower class inbreeding, but perhaps you could help me.
Oh, gosh, I certainly hope so.
And just, you know, as far as Chris's father of Bob and Ray, you've been talking about Bob and Ray since the day I met you.
I've been talking like Bob and Ray since the day.
We guested on Star Wars Minute together, and Joe worked a Bob and Ray routine into our guesting.
That fit the format of that show so well. It was a huge success.
Everybody loved it. But so
they spent 2 years gaining back their listenership because of that.
Yeah.
I will occasionally show my history of many, many years of artifacts. If you subscribe to our YouTube, you'll get to see some things that you won't be able to hear. So I'll be able to show things such as this nice collection of SCTV trading cards that I have.
Nice. Oh, that's amazing.
Krazy Brothers, and there's the entire cast, and there's the five neat guys, of course, and that's the Happy Is that the Happy Wanderers? I think it's the Schmengi Brothers, the Happy Wanderers, and Celebrity Farm Film Blow Up, and there's Catherine O'Hara as Lola Heatherton, and Andrea Martin, Edna Boyle, my favorite. I love Andrea so much.
Love it.
And
that's so great. So if you watch us on video, so we should say we're doing this both in audio and video. It's going to be really fun on video. We do encourage you to watch us on YouTube if you can. And I'm going to be editing in probably clips from the movies, images, and that kind of thing. So there'll be a lot of added value to the video version of this. As much as we're like terrified of actually being on video, we thought it was worth doing. I promise you I'll have different art behind me pretty much every podcast. Today's art is a little Popeye trading card. And then we're going to have a Patreon. And I'm already so excited about that. That's actually my favorite part, if you want to know the truth, because we're going to go off on tangents. Now, every episode, we're going to have a thing called Comedy Coda, where we talk about non-movie comedy things that we like just very briefly at the end of each episode. But then often we'll expand on that on the the Patreon. We'll kind of flesh those things out a little bit, and we'll occasionally interview people who were involved with the movie. I've already done that for their second episode.
The guys who were doing the special effects, they were really, really fun group of guys who had puppeteers, and they were big fans of Ray Harryhausen. And I was a huge Ray Harryhausen fan, and I'd grown up watching monster movies, and I loved anything with vampires and Ghidra, the three-headed monster, and Japanese, the whole bit.
We'll have plenty of Patreon bonus materials, so we'd really love it if you guys joined us. We'll have a very inexpensive price of admission to our Patreon. Now we're going to be having guests on, but this is stuff that's just, Joe's brain is just crammed full of. And then I've always been a huge comedy fan. We're going to be talking about a lot of stuff that I think sort of help form our own personalities. And, there's a few amazing movie podcasts, obviously, but so many of them are like, yeah, I think this happened. And I think my girlfriend said that they did some show on the BBC together. And I'm always just amazed that these people don't do the research, don't get the facts right, don't even just Google this stuff up before they go on mic, or pause while they're on mic and look it up and then edit it in. So the big, huge break that they got was, there was the Fringe Festival in Edinburgh, Scotland, which is Edinburgh.
They say it Edinburgh.
I know. That's what I was trying to do, and
you
I was
didn't,
messing up.
You didn't.
I didn't say Edinburgh. I didn't say. Did I say Edinburgh? No, I did not.
No, you wouldn't say it. It's not even spelled that way. Why would you say that?
Yes, it is. It's spelled Edinburgh, isn't it? Yeah, I think it is.
Edinburgh.
Well, anyway, whatever. I mean, as far as my podcast, The Shining and Rosemary's Baby, we actually came up with some very novel stuff about The Shining, like stuff that I don't think anyone else had ever noticed or discovered about The Shining.
We uncovered some things about Rosemary's Baby as well. I think that had not really been uncovered or talked about at all.
I interviewed Ira Levin's son, and we talked about the writing of the book, and he told us something about Tannis fruit that I don't think he had ever told anybody else. So we promised an accuracy factor in our podcast, and we promised we're going to bring you tidbits and information that there's probably going to be a few things that you didn't know. I think by the time you leave our podcast, all French teachers are crazy, and they spend 6 months on The Little Prince, and you don't learn any French at all.
I think your strength is that you approach it from a journalistic point of view, and you do a great deal of research. My strength is that I get jokes. If you give me any joke and say, I'm not sure I get this, I will be able to tell you what it means and what the point of the joke was and what the joke teller intended very easily. And that comes from 15 years of being a cartoonist for the New Yorker. I am able to get the ungettable. I do love when he wades out into the water and the sailors look at him and they say, "What the hell is that?" And Brian Doyle Murray says, "I don't know. Just a big guy, I guess."
See, to me, that's their petering at.
It's called hanging a lampshade on the joke. The gag is that the giant monster is just a big guy.
I know.
And he says, "Just a big guy, I guess."
Yeah. But that's what's going to be really fun about this too, is talking about why something's funny, why it's not funny anymore, and how it fits into the history of comedy. And, that's why we're going to go backwards in time, which I think will be really fun, and talk about how Eddie Cantor is a terrifying person who should never have been famous.
Just one of the worst performers ever. Yeah.
And is not funny at all.
We will mention how much we hate Eddie Cantor every episode until he is finally canceled.
This is our promise.
Cancel Eddie Cantor.
Then that's
cancel
the other
Cantor.
That's another point I want to make.
Can we start the hashtag cancel Cantor now and keep it going for the entire duration of the show?
We're not doing that. That's actually another point I want to make is we're actually we're nice people. I think we can say that. I think that's pretty
Susan is definitely a nice person.
And we're not going to be jerks. We're not going to be bullying people into our opinions, and we're not going to be shaming people for liking jokes that are
unless they like Eddie Cantor.
Unless it's Eddie Cantor. That's the only exception. Now I'm actually looking forward to talking about some controversial topics. I don't know. We're not going to get again crazy with that, but it's inevitable going backwards in comedy history. It's just inevitable. We're going to hit some bumps where we need to kind of talk about stuff.
Even the Marx Brothers, every Marx Brothers movie, these things were made in the 30s. Every single Marx Brothers movie has something in it that will make you cringe.
Again, I'm not a cancel culture person, but Pepe Le Pew just coincidentally came into prominence recently because people are beginning to talk about how controversial he is. And, to me, that's all just sociologically interesting. I look at this stuff in a very psychological and sociological way, anthropological, whatever. I just find that interesting. So we'll get into that, but, we're not going to be jerks about it. Now, the humor is, him calling him a girl, which of course is the ultimate insult.
But if I can defend that
Okay.
for a moment.
Gotcha. Give it a try.
None of that's insulting if you say it to Jennifer Susie or a girl. It's only insulting if you say it to a 35-year-old man.
It's the implication that female is negative. I grew up as a girl and I remember those insults. For being female to be an insult, just a straight up insult, is not a great way to grow up. I admit it's funny. It's funny because it's Letterman. Even being insulted, it's still funny. That's one guarantee. We're not going to be jerks. We will be efficient. We're going to be efficient. We're not going to waste a ton of your time with stupid, goofy jokes about our home lives and our what we had for breakfast.
Because it's a pandemic, we have no lives. It's the kind of dramatic lighting look I've chosen for my space here. It's a slightly noirish kind of a thing.
This is very seductive. I think you look seductive. I think
I'm like the Empire State Building. I'm going to light up appropriate to the holidays.
I've given up on the background stuff for now because it was too messy. But anyway, welcome to
As you can see, I've given up as well on the background because it's pretty much my apartment.
And then third, again, is accuracy and information. So what else? Anything else you want to promise? I
want to promise this podcast is going to be more than a podcast. It's going to be a meal. It's going to be your car. It's going to be a best friend to you. It's going to be by your bedside as you lay there dying, breathing your last pathetic breath. It will be the only thing that comes to your funeral.
We promise that. And
we promise.
Now we can't get out of that. And that's unfortunate because that's going to take up a lot of our spare time. That's what we've got for you. Our first episode is dropping soon. And we're so excited and hope you join us. All right. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.